Premonitions. Telling you something. They are.
A Jedi craves not these things. A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense. Never attack.
I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you.
Patience!
Hello everyone and welcome to Cloud City Dreams. This episode we are going to be talking about the recently spoiled six-pack from the opposition cycle Technological Terror that's been spoiled in France. So I have guest commentator here Chris, also known as Theodore on the forums, and he's going to help me go through the sets, and I'll put up English translations for the cards. So the first set that we're going to discuss is the Sith set, and it's called the Emperor's Shadow. So Chris, this is concentrated 5/1. After reaction, after you play an enhancement, draw one card, limit once per turn. From the off, what do you think?
You gotta love card draw. I mean, like anytime you're getting a bonus or doing something you kind of want to do anyway, and I mean, as we'll see as we go further in the set, you know, there's not only great enhancements in this set, but great reasons to play them and have them out because, you know, of just what the Emperor Shuttle does. But at the end of the day, I mean, drawing a card is great. I mean, one of the best objectives in the game, and I think it's overlooked, is the Millennium Falcon objective. It's just like draw a card when you win an edge battle, which is just amazing. It sets you up for your next turn, so you can kind of go harder in on the engagement and your attack, and then you still kind of have cards left over to defend with, which is, I mean, if you're going into your opponent's turn with no cards in your hand, you know, you're gonna have a bad time. I do like that. I do like it quite a bit.
And the good thing with Sith is they have their character enhancements, and then there's lots of fighters.
Like
So
everything.
This
I
looks
think
like it can go two ways.
It's a really great kind of way to get away from always having to run I forget what it's called, but card draw on your opponent's turn. You get one card basically. Council. Yeah. It's a nice way to like get a card draw effect without having to put that in every deck, which I like.
Right, so we'll move on to the Emperor's Shuttle. So this is a 4-cost 3 health unit, 2 black guns, 1 black bomb, 1 white bomb, which is nice to see in Sith, because we know they don't do too much damage often. Its wording is it has shielding, and it has a reaction. After the force phase begins, sacrifice an enhancement attached to this unit to remove 1 focus token from a target friendly unit.
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. Like, I think focus control is like has been and should always be kind of like the Sith, you know, main weapon, you know, more so than like direct damage, more so than removal, just like being able to control the board in that way and make sure the things you want locked down are locked down, and make sure that your guys's are able to defend and attack at the same time is wonderful. It's one of the things I think makes Mara Jade so powerful, being able to, you know, utilize. I believe that she has the right event in there to be able to remove 2 focus icons from a unit if the force is in your favor.
Yeah, range.
It's very useful, and especially because you want to use Palpatine on offense and you want to use him on defense. So it's just another way to be able to do that and to be able to get out from under, you know, that tactics icon if you lose an edge battle against like Tactics Yoda or something. So I think it's really great.
Yeah, I like it. It also happens in the force phase, so you can, like you say, attack and then free up. So it's got its own little built-in mechanism of may the force be with you that's not broken in terms of certain respects.
Oh man, don't get me started on that set.
Right, so the next card is Shuttle Pilots. This is a neutral, 1 cost, 1 health. It has 1 gun. It is a character pilot. Pilot cost is 1, and enhanced vehicle unit gains edge 1.
I think it's great. I mean, I think it really goes well with the shuttle. It gives you that discard ability that you want with that. It has the ability on top of that to give you edge, which is just, you know, you're never going to say no to edge. I think it allows this shuttle, because it removes from unit and not character unit, to be placed in a tie deck, which is also very frightening as well. You know, so there's a lot of great ways to use this, and you throw this on I forget which it is that gives you edge when there's a pilot, when something's piloted. I might be mistaken, but I believe there's a TIE fighter that gives edge the more the for the enhancements on it, or if it's piloted, it gives edge. I can't remember. I don't play a lot of TIEs. I haven't for a while, but it's just a nice pilot to have. And pilot one, I mean, you could do worse than that in a TIE deck that deploys for free, and that's a deploy for free onto your shuttle. Remove it, get something refreshed, put it back on with the pilot recursion fake card. So I think there's a lot of cool things to do with that.
Right, so the next card is what the community was really caught on and liked. So it is the Emperor's Favor. It's title traded. It's enhance a Sith unit. Enhanced unit gains. Well, enhanced Sith unit gains +1 damage capacity and has the action play this enhancement from your discard pile.
I think it's amazing. Any recursion is a great thing to have, and I think Sith right now have, I think their biggest disadvantage is objective protection, and their only real objective protection is just have dudes win edge battles and stop them from killing your objectives. But if they ever poke through with something like a Rogue Squadron X-Wing or something, I mean, it's just the clock's just ticking before your objective is just going to fall apart. Whereas in Navy, it's like, cool, you did 3 damage. Now it has 1 damage on it and your objective blows up, you know, hashtag Eulerin is broken, but it's just, this is a cool way to give your Sith units a little bit more durability. It's a cool way to free up units with the shuttle, because you can play it from the shuttle, and again, because it's not character specific, you can put it on the shuttle. And then another way to kind of keep getting that May the Force be with you effect that, as you so rightly said, isn't broken. I really do like that.
I meant to say it actually gives a Sith unit extra guns, and I know in the Sith decks I'm playing, having units that can deal 3 damage is just quite good. Is useful and is needed.
It's guns and damage capacity,
yeah,
right?
It's the guns that,
Absolutely. Having a Vader that can do 4 damage, or even having a Palpatine that can do a damage. I mean, that's effectively sometimes a 4 or 5 character swing, depending on what you're doing. You know, focus out 3 guys and kill a 1 hit point guy. I mean, that's your opponent's not having a good day when that happens.
Yeah, so I'm liking that card. So the next card is a Sensor Array. So this is a 2-cost enhancement. It's an enhance your play area. It's an item card. And it has Interrupt. When an event card is played, focus this enhancement and discard an enhancement from your hand to cancel that event's effects.
Yeah, I love this card, and it's been, I mean, it's a resource, which is just crazy too, because that's just, you never can have too many resources in this game. As much as you start with 4 and it's not quite Magic where you need to stack up, 20 lands, resources are great for replenishing your board and being able to surprise people with events, and even having open resources makes people think twice. But this is that card that can kind of make your opponent be punished for playing playing May the Force be with you, because suddenly like Yoda is a little more of a deadly proposition there. And I love that it's on a enhancement, because I think one of the biggest problems in this game, and I don't even know if it's a problem, but one of the biggest things you have to think about in this game is holding on to a card like Jamming Protocol. You now have a 5-card hand versus a 6-card hand. And that's for the whole game. So you're slowing down drawing, you're not getting what you need, and you're hoping that you have the resources to actually play the event when you want to cancel an event. So I love that it is on a character in the same way that I love Ferris's. When he's shielded, he can cancel an event. I really love that events cancel when it's on the board, because 1, it's apparent to everyone. So you can play around it and it's not a surprise. And 2, it doesn't clog up your hand, which in this game, hand is so important. It's probably one of the top 3 things to being a good player, is being able to manage your hand properly.
Yep, good card. And the last card in the set, which is another one that just works well with everything in there, is Well Equipped. So you can be freeing up that enhancement again to event cancel.
Absolutely.
Doing lots of things.
I hadn't been playing as much when this new cycle came out. So when Well Equipped came out, I didn't really love it at first. But after I started realizing the kind of shenanigans you can pull with this card, save a guy from dying, or double strike with the guy who isn't committed to the Force, or basically just anything. It's such a choice card, and I love that. and it happens to be in a dark side deck here, so you don't have to worry about Tarkin, making your day very bad.
Cool. Right, so we'll now move on to the Scum set, and this one's been causing a bit of strife on the community that we've already been talking about. So we'll start with the objective. It's Heart of Cold, I believe. It's a 5/1, Scum and Villainy affiliation only, and it has a reaction. After you reveal one or more Scum and Villainy fate cards in your edge stack, remove 1 damage from a target Scum and Villainy objective.
I love it. I think one of my biggest issues with this game, like for a long time, had been just like on the dark side, you felt like if you didn't play perfectly or if you didn't have exactly what you needed, if you took any damage on an objective, I mean, you're pretty much just going to lose. Just waiting out 12 turns became very difficult because there was just no way to get damage off your objectives. And, once something's down to 2 hit points, that's just one shot with a bomb going in there unopposed. And it's not that hard to do. And I think they did a really good job. As much as I complain about Yularen and Tarkin, I think they did a really great job with Yularen's pod. I think it's actually pretty well balanced. And I love that it gives you this kind of like ability to kind of turn the tables on like this kind of poke damage play versus like just outright go in and blow up an objective, and it kind of adds to the game and in a way that I really like. So I love that Scum and Villainy has seen a lot more of this, and it's actually one of the things about Sith that has been like kind of a pain in the ass, is that I love Sith and I would play it, but the 2 biggest problems are, well, if they can just get around my big mains, or I can't pay for my big mains, then I've got these chuds that are like Kuwati security guards. I mean, what are they going to do? And then the other end of that is like, well, you're doing 1 damage a turn. By turn 10, like I'm dead. Like what can I do? So I love that they just keep doing this for Scum and giving them different ways to protect objectives. Whether it's when there's a captured unit here, first damage can be ignored, or even something like this, when you're revealing a fate card, you can actually heal your objectives and really throw off your opponent's math.
So I think we've got a bit of like a Scum fortress going on now.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll move on to the big main, which is all the talk of the town. It's the next IG-88 in the family, IG-88C, 4 cost, 3 health. He's a droid and a bounty hunter. And the big thing is reaction. After an enemy card effect that targeted this unit resolves, or after 1 or more tokens are placed on this unit by enemy combat icons, capture a target exhausted enemy unit. Limit once per turn.
I think it's incredible. It's just such a neat thing, and you'll just have to deal with it in such interesting ways. And there's not a lot that can make something attack him, so you may just choose to not attack him. You may choose to try and block with something else to kind of try and like something with blast to try and stop unopposed if he's trying to do damage, or you may just let him do his damage to objectives and not go in or risk your characters. It also opens up like really cool action windows with and I'm not sure if this actually works, but things like forgetting what's in Luke's pod that lets him refresh the
lightsaber.
Not lightsaber, but the other enhancement that basically refreshes your character, allows them to strike again if you want. So that's kind of neat too, because you could use that. Maybe not, because it's a reaction, so they might already be exhausted. But you could, if you had a Luke on the board, for instance, you could use that to remove the icons and then attack IG-88 with somebody else, and then you've saved your Luke from being captured.
Yeah,
I
think it's definitely one where you have to decide, right, how am I going to attack? I don't want to leave a good focused unit just in case something happens. So
exactly.
Yeah. I was talking on the forums because people are like, this is too dirty, this is too hard, and I'm thinking, well, there are things you can do. I mean, if this is going to be your first turn play, and for Scum, which I'm not sure if it is, I'll probably want to see mid to late game, maybe on the second turn, is that if you put this guy on the force, then if you seeds in the first engagement, that's it. You lose you lose him for that thing, because your board's going to be open. No, shouldn't have anyone exhausted. So that's one way of getting around him, and so many other ways. Sleuths, so he can't block there are ways around him, so I don't think it's all death and despair from Scum, but he is definitely a good card.
I would have actually have loved to have seen this ability on Boba Fett versus the ability you did get for like core Boba Fett. It might have been a little bit more interesting. I just don't think they were there in the design space, but it just I don't know. This almost feels like more of like a Boba Fett ability that would have been like way better than the kind of janky, weird. If you do damage, you may capture, but too bad you did too much damage, so he's actually dead, not captured. Kind of like issues you got into with kind of the core set Boba. But I do like this, and I think it's really interesting. And I do like this whole kind of like IG88 ABC. You know, I love where they're going with that. Just really, like, I'm waiting for that like all IG88 deck that's just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna cause so many problems. Like, who do you defend with? IG88. Which one?
Cool. Right. So the next card we have is the well, the way it's written in French, you usually go backwards. I think it's an FEX model combat droid.
Yep.
And he has a force reaction after this unit is declared as an attacker or defender. An opponent may focus his affiliation card to remove this unit from the engagement. Which is, I'm not sure about that. Whether is it going to force your opponent to leave that open? I think the only reason you would is because the amount of damage he can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, two black bombs is nothing to scoff at, and Sith like blowing things up. I mean, they're not as rest on their laurels as Sith usually are, where they're just waiting out the clock. I mean, I've seen games end by like turn 2 or 3 with a well placed spider attack and some spice visions and whatnot. So it's nice to see them getting like really nice solid black icons, but it's also nice to see like a very good unit like this be kind of like able to be played around in resource management. So I like it. I think it's a pretty balanced card. I think honestly it could even be a two cost unit.
I think it gets a bit dirty when he has illegal modifications put on him. Because it
Yeah.
can be a sort of double striking, it's almost as good as Boba Fett.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a strong card.
very much.
Right, next card. Hey, it's a Return of the Ugnaught. So we last saw this in a Hoth cycle, and I don't think I've ever seen him played. But I get the feeling he will be now.
Oh yeah.
So for those who don't know the Ugnaught, 2 cost 2 health, 1 black gun, but the main thing is he's got 1 resource and reaction. After a card is captured, remove 1 damage from a friendly vehicle or droid unit. Looks like it's going to be difficult to start killing droids, especially with how capture's definitely moved on in the game. It's become a much bigger thing now.
Yeah. I really like this unit. I like them bringing back old cards because I think there's a lot of good cards from bad objective sets that can now go in really cool decks. Even Return of the Jedi. John Heath Clark here in the New York area. He really has shown us all the value of that card. Now that's in like an objective set that's actually playable, and it's scary, man. It's like Yoda you seek Yoda almost from your discard pile to put a Force user into play. I mean, that's like suddenly Obi-Wan comes in like turn 1 for 2, because you discarded him in edge battle. Like that's scary. And then you use the thing that reduces its cost by 2. I forget what it's called, but it's an edge card. I mean, it's a really cool card, but it was just unplayable in that like Redemption, I think is the name of the ship in that pod set. It was like it was literally unplayable. You just could never use that card. You never saw played. And now all of a sudden you got to think about like, oh man, is Obi-Wan just gonna jump on the board for 2 or what? Like this is scary.
Right. So good to see an old card come back in the game. So the next 2 cards, as we have through this cycle, is the actual affiliated fake cards, and this is Tricks and Nonsense. It's exactly the same as the Smuggler one, but it targets Smuggler cards, and while the Smuggler one targets Scum ability cards. So if your opponent's edge stack contains 1 or more Smuggler or neutral cards, your opponent cannot trigger abilities during this engagement. So what do you think to these affiliation cards? I mean, each one has their pairings and matchups, and they do slightly different things. You got any favourites from the opposition cycle?
I can't remember. If this one was opposition. I think this might have been more previously the one that switches the Force for the light side. think that might have been when you play it. You flip the force to your side, so you can actually take the force before the force phase, or
Oh
even
yeah,
take the force on
yeah,
there too.
yeah. That was the one from Between the Shadows, which isn't
Uh,
affiliated. But so yeah, in this cycle though, we've got the Vader's one, which cancels out can cancel out Jedi cards, and vice versa with
yes,
Jedi
now also
ones.
places a focus icon, right,
Yeah,
on
if
a
you got the
character
objective
or
up.
on a character if they play a Jedi
Yeah.
card.
Mm,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah.
That actually might be my favorite. I actually was looking at it earlier because I had D-Lots out. That's from Dark Lord of the Sith, right?
No, it's there is no conflict, which I've been playing around with a lot because I love 501st
Oh,
Legion.
it's a great card. All
Yeah.
the Vaders have been great. We just
Mm.
don't talk about Hoth Vader.
Yeah. It's
Good
I think
old three cost, 1 hit point Chud with a resource. I mean,
I
who
think
wouldn't want to play that?
yeah, I think all of them actually have been quite good. I mean, the Rebel and Navy ones, they're quite powerful, 3 pips and allowing you
Yeah.
to push people out of engagements or striking first. That's quite tough. And then smugglers and scum cancelling each other's abilities. That's big, I think.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
especially against this IG-88 on the
yeah,
smuggler side.
yeah. So yeah, definitely some. If you can get and that's the problem in this game is sometimes getting your deck match up. Sometimes you're gonna get hurt, and sometimes you just get that perfect game where you get the right matchup and you have this brilliant thematic story where you're cancelling each other out, like scum
And I
versus
and I
smugglers.
love I love that they put neutral in here too because that opens up a little bit more than it would be otherwise.
Yeah,
Because then your opponent, I mean, if they're a good player, then they're also thinking like, well, shit, like I really need this ability this turn, so maybe I shouldn't put a neutral fate card in a neutral
yeah,
card into my fate stack, but like I kind of need this to win the edge. I don't know what to do, so
yeah.
just making the game more thinky is always a good thing.
Cool. Right, so that concludes the Scum set, so we'll move straight on now into the light side cards. And this new Jedi set, which I believe's got you quite hyped, it is Running the Canyon. It's a 5/1 Tatooine objective, and it has reaction. After a speeder or fighter unit you control is focused to strike, discard an event card from your hand to have that unit gain a gun and a edge-enabled bomb until the end of the strike.
Yeah, it's just insane. This whole set is amazing, and it opens up so many archetypes and just goes so many things. I mean, you could put this with like Wedge and from Hoth. You could put this in a straight Jedi deck, just with like old, Owen Lars and Core Luke. I mean, there's just so many cool things about this, and I've been waiting for a T16 Skyhopper forever. And I think somebody must have watched Rogue One and FFG was like, oh, T15 Skyhopper, I get that joke. Let's put that in the game. I don't know if this probably was designed way before that, but I just love this set in general. It's like the art is just amazingly beautiful. It's such an iconic line from the movies, and it really helps. Jedi do exactly what they want to do, which is blow up objectives. So
Mm. So, as you alluded to, we've got T16s, and the first one is Luke's T16 Skyhopper. It is a vehicle speeder. It has targeted strike and reaction. After you play an event card, deal 1 damage to a target enemy objective. That's nice.
yeah, it's incredible. And the really cool thing about this is that it doesn't have to be in the engagement. It's just the reaction, just
Mm,
like Vader with Sith abilities. And I love that it can be played off of any. I love that it can play it off of any event type, so it doesn't have to be a Jedi event, which I think opens this up to be splashed in things like to be splashed into rebels, to be splashed into smugglers and spies, which I think is really neat. I think the unit itself is fairly costed at 3, and even at 2 hit points, it's not quite as scary as you might think because it's a vehicle, so a lot of things that can do direct damage aren't going to be messing with it. And having something that can just ping somebody for 1 targeted strike, again, never a bad thing. I mean, their boards, you just had a huge, 3 engagement turn, and they've got like that 1 resource off in the back, and you're just like flying and take it out. Just, I mean, you could do worse. You could do worse.
I mean, I'm thinking of I know we've been suffering with the Navy Fortress, but just having this on the board and being
Oh,
able to do the damage to the undamaged objectives, that's going to help a lot. It's a
Absolutely, and
shame.
that's what you need too. You really want, if you're playing against Navy, the way to beat it is to build up a board and blow up objectives. Like you're not going in there like old school, style where it's like I'll go with the Yoda and put 2 damage on it, and then I'll commit him. You just don't do that because you're just setting yourself up for them to get a lot of value out of Yularen and the event in that deck, Imperial. I forget what Imperial Fist. And not only does that give them the ability to use those cards, if you don't do that, then they got to think like they're suddenly they're sitting on like 2 Ularins and 2 Imperial Fists and haven't been able to play them for the last 3 turns. Smart players are going to start discarding those cards. So once you see those cards go, then you can start pinging, and it's like it really opens up this kind of like, how do you play against that deck? How do you do it smartly? And I really love this card. It gives you bonuses for playing events, and I mean, let's not even talk about the events we're going to talk about in a moment. That are free, amazing events, but like even like really great events, like cool. I'm just going to double strike with Luke, by playing Force Rejuvenation, and suddenly I blow up that objective. I can then strike with Luke again, or even Luke with just a lightsaber on him, and this on the board is like that's an objective kill because you're just like unless they have multiple guys in the defending, you're just like cool. Well, I will strike first, the targeted strike, kill your defender, and do a bomb because of because of the T-16 Skyhopper, and then Luke will strike for 3, and then the objective blows up. It's a really great support unit, and I just love what it does to the game.
I'd love to see if this does get the speeders back out, because I mean, like we said, wedge on this, being able to strike, then target strike again, and bombs.
Yeah.
It will be cool. Right.
I'd be very happy to be able to use my Rogue 3 alt arts again. Those things are amazing.
Yeah. So the next card is a generic T-16 Skyhopper. So it's 1 cost, 1 health. It has 2 force pips, which is nice. 1 black gun, 1 white bomb. It has no text apart from being vehicle and speeder, but yeah.
I don't think this needs text. I mean, a 1-drop bomb. I mean, I'd take that in a heartbeat, and then add on there that it even has a gun on it too. Like, and it's a vehicle, so it's not getting force choked. Like, there's a lot to love about this card, and that's one of the coolest things about the objective set system in this game is that it kind of forces you to play with these cards. Like this card would never go in a deck. Like nobody would ever like build a deck of 50 cards and be like, yeah, T-16 Skyhopper, throwing that right on in. There's so many better cards out there. But because of the objective set system that you want all the other cards in the stack, you have to start thinking, how do I use this appropriately, and how can I get the most value out of it? And it adds like more thought to the game, and it adds more thought to piloting versus like just building like the most optimal deck. So I think it's a great card, and 2 pips is more than fair. I mean, this would be a great card at 1 pip. 2 is just, definitely include.
Right, so now onto these events that you've alluded to. First one is Memories of Home. It's an action. Place 1 shield on a target friendly unit, and then it has a reaction. After you win a force struggle by 2 or more force icons, return this event from your discard pile to your hand. Wow.
Yeah. Free shielding at action speed and recursion. I mean, that's a hard thing to beat. And there's a lot of times in this game where that 1 shield is going to be the difference between like getting throned and destroyed or getting killed by Vader with his lightsaber, and suddenly like, oh, I got 1 hit point left. Let me show you the power of the Force, So they're very great, and they didn't even need to put their reaction on there because it would still be a great card otherwise. But I just love that you can play now to get that back in your hand and actually utilize it again.
I think there's so many things we can do with that, and I'm just thinking of Mick and his Ferris deck, and
getting the shield on Ferris on demand. I mean, having an event cancel when you need it. You could do worse. You could do worse.
And the problem is, if you do run this in a Jedi hybrid deck where you do have the people that are going to get force users, you're going to be recurring that pretty much every turn.
Yep.
Almost. So yeah, that's good. So the next card is Bullseye, and this is another 0 cost event with 2 pips, and it has action. During an engagement, target a friendly unit that has targeted strike. That unit strikes immediately.
Yeah, this is just insane. It's like it's just it's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Especially because it's targeted strike specifically. I think this would be fair if it was like a unit without targeted strike. That would have been fair. But this is like Twi'lek loyalist on crack. You know, that card is like, well, are you going to defend with Vader or are you going to get tactics with Vader? Because either way, Vader ain't doing anything to my main force this turn. This is just like, are you going to defend with Palpatine and have him die, or are you going to not defend with Palpatine and have him die? Like, what would you like, out of this scenario? So it's like it's really neat. I think it makes Han better. I think it makes Luke better. Like I've been a really big fan of Endor Luke for a while, but this makes me rethink that. And just like really wants me to play this card and with base Luke,
Yeah, cool.
Farm Boy Luke. It's really neat. And finally we get to see what a Womp Rat looks like because I don't think we've seen that yet. Maybe in some of like the RPGs or something.
I remember seeing a Womp Rat on the NES when I played. It must have been in the 90s when I played Star Wars, and it was this big. It looked worse than that anyway. So, but yeah, what I love about this card is when it specifically states a certain keyword like target strike. Suddenly your deck building mind comes in, and then you start thinking, right, what units have target strike? What weird and wonderful decks can I make? And like you say, you've got Han, you got that. There are some vehicles that do have target strike. I think when you it's in the Heroes of the Rebellion. So yeah, there are places that I think this set can go, but definitely I think Core Luke is the one we're homing in on, and thematically
Yeah.
wise, it would work with. Right, so good card days. Last card in the set is a target of opportunity, so we don't need to explain that. So we'll move now on to our
But
final.
never a bad thing to have.
Mm,
Many a games have been won by one target of opportunity.
yeah. So our final set, and this is probably my most favourite of the pack,
I
even though the
think I'm
Death,
right there with you.
even though the Death Star is cool. This one is Tiny Robotic Sociopath.
And I'm still trying to figure out if that's the right translation because that's just hilarious.
Oh, robot sociopath minuscule. Yeah, it's a funny one. So it's Lafol trait. It's 5/1, and it's while you control a Spectre unit, each player cannot draw more than 5 cards during his draw phase. What do you think of that?
So in a vacuum, I love it. Like it's a very interesting. I love the way specters kind of mess with people's hands, mess with people play. I think it's very much like very rebellish, very just breaking the rules of the game. I think is really neat. I will say that I'm a little worried about Worlds this year, especially what happened last year with like holding all the cards and like some guy like bragging that he was like literally going to try and DQ people by playing holding all the cards when like Zeb's objective was out and active. I'm just like I'm a little worried that like somebody's gonna like because it's really easy after, when you play the game 10 hours a day and you're drawing 6 cards every turn,
Yeah,
suddenly like oh crap I drew 6 cards and that's a game loss and I don't know that I love that. It's more of like a judging rule that I think I have an issue with. I think I think it should be a warning and then maybe a game loss after that, or maybe 2 warnings in a game loss. But just the fact that like crap, I drew an extra card is a game loss. I think it's a little harsh, and I think this will just add to the issue. I mean, there's like who's responsible for saying, "Hey, man, there's a Spectre unit on the table. You can't draw more than 5." And I think even when I've started playing like Zeb or when I play Zeb decks, I generally always say like, "Hey, every time it's like the start of the turn on either phase, was just to let you know there's a Spectre unit in play, which means you cannot draw cards off card effects, things like that." But it's outside of that, I love it. I mean, it's a really cool way to mess with your opponent and then kind of like make their, and especially as you go through, and we'll talk about the rest of the set and like kind of the cool shenanigans you can do with it. I think it really plays very well with all the different options you have with this.
mm. Well, so we'll move on to the main of the set, and this one that we've all been waiting for and wanting. It is Chopper, the maniac droid that we love from Rebels. He's 2 health, 2 costs, has 2 force pips, has a black gun, a white tactics. He's a droid and he's spectre traded, which is the all important one. And he has a reaction after a card is discarded from an opponent's hand, deal 1 damage to a target unit controlled by that player, limit once per turn.
Really neat, Really neat. I love it. I love it sitting on the board. It gives you control. It gives you targeted damage, which is never a bad thing. And it starts to make you think like what other cards in the game, offer this kind of hand control, hand manipulation, all those kind of things. I think people were talking about Sabak Shuffle from like Gamblo and all that kind of stuff. It would just be nice to see like Lady Luck and all those kind of cards like come back as in like kind of interesting ways because they now they can now pair with this pretty well. So I really like it. I think it's a very interesting effect, and I think we haven't seen a lot of hand mitigation and a hand kind of what do you call it, hand manipulation really have other effects other than just like limiting your opponent's ability to do an edge battle. So I think it's really neat.
I've already been discussing with people online about what we can do with this, and yeah, Gamblo was a good one because it's a great way to be able to trigger him. And then someone has to go and mention Brainiac, and suddenly things start to get crazy. So
Oh man,
yeah,
2 damage! Wow, yeah.
yeah. So expect some shenanigans coming from Chopper.
Timing wise, though, that'd be rough, right? Because it's an action, so you couldn't do an action before the reaction. But if you knew you were about to discard a card from their hand, then you could like Brainiac, make him be able to do 2 damage and do the effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Right. So the next unit is from the looks of it, a messenger courier droid, something or other.
Capture
Yeah.
message droid, something.
Yeah.
Capture.
The interesting thing while it's a Chud unit, 1 cost, 1 health with a white gun, it has the Spectre trait, which is very interesting.
Yeah,
And it has
2 specters, 1 pod is.
yeah, and then it has reaction. After this unit enters play, a target opponent must choose and discard 1 card from his hand. So there's one way of getting a card.
Yeah, there it is right there. Brainiac chopper up and throw down this droid. Suddenly you're doing 2 damage anywhere you want, which is nothing to scoff at in this game.
I think that the fact that you can get Chopper and this droid off of Spark a Rebellion is a bit crazy as well. The only
Sparks. I'm actually going to put together a Spark deck right after this, just kind of mess around with like what all the kind of options are with it, because I'm still trying to decide if I want to try and do Spark or I just want to do like Mono Jedi for Worlds. And I think Mono Jedi is still going to come out ahead with like everything that it has, especially with like the C16 Skyhopper. It's just going to have a little bit more tricks and a little bit more damage, but I don't know. Hera's scary. Ezra's really nice. I mean, Chopper's insane. So I mean, Kanan's nothing to laugh at either. Being able to get that extra resource and then during the deployment phase free him up again. So there's a lot of good stuff happening.
I think what's got me about this set though is these Spectres are cheap, so you could have 2 Spectres on the board first turn without even sparking if you do have these 2 units, and these 2 units help trigger off Zeb's objective, so that's easy to set up if you got that out. If you got Ezra's objective out, that's easy to set up because of the cheapness. So yeah, lots of things that I think this really does buff the Spectre decks to a new level. So the next card is Electroshock Prod. Now this was already spoiled in English as part of a reveal earlier in the game, but I'll go through it. It is a item weapon, enhance a Spectre or Droid unit, enhanced unit gains a gun, and then reaction. After a phase begins, focus this enhancement to treat a target unit's printed text box as if it were blank, except for traits, until the end of the phase. Sort of a Tarkin card.
I love it. I still hate that ruling, but I love it.
It's about time for the dark side to get a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, right. Especially as they're getting that like enhancement, that awesome enhancement shuttle pod. Now it's like, oh, this is what that feels like.
Yeah. Apart from that, also giving an extra gun, and it can go on Spectre units. I'm thinking, Zeb loves enhancements. Give him a bow rifle his band. Give him this. He becomes a terrifying unit.
And it's fairly decent cost too. 1 cost for a gun. I mean, that's great. And then on top of that, the reaction, and it doesn't cost anything either. So
yeah, I just think the synergy between this and Zeb's pod is all there, especially if a freelance slicer can pull it out of the top as well. If you know it's there. It's all
and
good.
well equipped too.
Yeah, things are starting to get crazy. Right, and now we've got 2 interesting events coming up. So first event is makeshift repairs. It's one cost and it has an action. Search your deck for an enhancement, reveal it, and add it to your hand. If your opponent has 0 cards in hand, search for any card instead, then shuffle your deck.
Yep. Tutors are nice, and tutor for anything is pretty amazing.
So yeah, this comes back to my because I've been making a deck with Gamblo and with Zeb and that, and if I can get the cards out at the right time, I could back shift the hand away, then go search for any card I want, and then just do what I need to do. It can get a bit crazy, but searching for the enhancements, that inspectors, that's quite good as well, because they do have some good free pip enhancements. If you desperately need an edge card for 1 cost, you can go get that, or get whatever
really
one you need. And so we'll move on to the next one, and probably the most interesting one, which maybe, I don't know, does it make this set broken? It's improvised tactics. So it's a 2-cost smuggler event with 2 pips. It's a tactic trait and action. Search your deck for a Spectre unit and put it into play. Then shuffle a Spectre unit you control into its owner's deck.
I like the balance. I mean, you do have the droid, so it's not. It's like you do have a target for it with the 1-cost droid, and then it allows you to draw the droid again and trigger, the ability to do the targeted strike ability, or not targeted strike, but the targeted damage ability. So it's got interesting, but it's not as bad as Yoda Seek Yoda. It's not just like I just get this unit for 2. So you have to make a call. Like maybe you're in a spot where you need Zeb more than you need Kanan, so you sacrifice Kanan back into your deck to get Zeb out, or maybe you have an extra Kanan in your hand and you don't mind getting Zeb out for what would essentially be 6 costs over the course of the game because you really want him then, or even like you've already struck with Kanan and you want to like throw in Zeb and so you can throw him in your deck. So there's a lot of cool things I think you can do with this, but I don't see it as broken. I think it definitely has a cost to it. If you're not throwing back Chopper or the droid, I mean you're throwing back a 3 to 4 cost cards. So
I think towards endgame though, if you can get units double striking,
absolutely,
then, absolutely. It can be really useful. So that concludes the technological terror, and I think it is a great pack to end the cycle with. I think I can think of interesting decks to make with pretty much all the cards in that.
Might be the strongest. It might be the strongest set we've seen in this game in a long time for all factions, which is really exciting.
Well, Chris, thanks for coming on and going through those cards with me. It's been great.
Of course.
Glad we can put the translations out to everyone and everyone get an idea of what they're in for and what impact this could have on worlds. Any final thoughts from you?
I'm just really excited to get this pack. I am pretty sure it's slated for this week, and I think everyone's getting it in our local area, so it's going to be really nice. It sucks. I really want to make the Spectre deck, but I really want to put in Chopper, and I just don't have them right now. Same thing with my Jedi deck. I really want to see like where this fits in. I'm a very like tactile person. Like I don't love doing decks online. I really just like holding the cards in my hand and seeing which goes which and kind of figure out like a puzzle when I'm building. But yeah, I'm very excited to grab this pack.
Well, thanks for coming on and helping me out. Explain these cards to the community.
It's a pleasure, my friend.
That's cool. All right, thanks everyone, and may the force be with you.